Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to another episode of On the Couch with Creatives. I say good morning, but good evening, good afternoon if you're anywhere else in the world. As you know by now, if you've been with us for a while, we are part of the Creatives Group, a private network for creative professionals to grow and develop their creative businesses together. I'm Melanie Perry.
And I'm Julie Hyde-Mew.
So tell us, Julie, who is our very special guest today?
Well, today on the couch, we have an author, DYLAN Brennan, and he's just published his debut novel called Noble Betrayed. And it's been described as a thought-provoking fusion of the sword-swinging, army-inspired medieval tales of political intrigue and love and death and honor, familial love, and the grave consequences that history can have on society as a whole. And this book is a fantasy, but it's also very real, sounds pretty chunky. But what's even more remarkable about this book is that it's been written by an author who is only 16 years old. Hello, DYLAN. Welcome to On the Couch.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Were you 16 years old when you wrote it, or were you 15 and you're now 16?
I was 14 when I started it. Yeah, I started it back in quarantine.
Wow, under lockdown. So obviously a writing prodigy. So what sparked off the idea?
Well, I've always loved fantasy just as a genre. I mean, I love Lord of the Rings, I love Game of Thrones, or all of those. So my passion for English and just I guess, sort of the boredom of quarantine, I felt like it gave me the perfect opportunity to write my own entry into the genre and realize my dream, I guess.
Wow, that's pretty epic. I mean, Julie and I have seen that over lockdown, such creativity was born from so many people, but to actually write and get published is pretty awesome. Your tale is kind of set in medieval times, and it's a fantasy. Is it a purely human fiction, or do you have mythical creatures like dragons in your book as well?
I don't have dragons, but I do have a couple other mythical creatures. There is a griffin, but it's still as a baby right now. But for the most part, it does just focus on human nature and the quarrels between humans.
And is this the first of a saga? Are you going to carry on writing books, carrying on with the whole story?
Yeah, I plan on probably doing a trilogy. Yeah.
That's the thing about fantasy, isn't it? It's wonderful to escape to a world and you can just go anywhere with it. I think that's the beauty of it. You know, you can go on and on and on. And it's funny because I'm a filmmaker, and as I was reading the synopsis of your book, and I'm very visual, so I was seeing imagery flash past my eyes. I thought, this would make a good film. It would make a good film. So that'll be the next thing, won't it, Jen? You'll be selling the rights to Disney or Warner Brothers or something like that.
Yeah, hopefully.
Another Game of Thrones saga in the making.
Yeah, but people love that. People love that. People like to escape. And I do. When I watch TV, I'm much more likely to watch Game of Thrones or something than Coronation Street, I have to admit, because I like to get away when I watch the TV. I don't want to watch the same nitty-gritty life drama play out that I'm trying to get away from. At least if you've got dragons and nice clothes and costumes and things, it makes it a bit more bearable. It's the same kind of drama, but it makes it a bit more bearable, doesn't it, when you've got better things to watch?
Tell us a bit about the story. Give us a bit of the plot.
Okay, so it's very hard to summarize the plot just because the book is so big, but the main protagonist is this man called Lord Simon Pargin, and he's the lord of House Pargin, obviously, and his father used to serve the current king and helped him actually rise to the crown. And since then, however, he's nothing like his father. He's just become quite reserved. He's quite callous. He doesn't really want anything to do with the crown now. But eventually he gets called up by his old friend, the king, whose name is Eminar, to serve as High Earl in the kingdom. and high earl is one of the most influential positions. It's basically the second in command. However, it's at the it's at the perfect time for disaster, because he used to domestically abuse his wife Gwendis, and because of that, she sees it as the perfect opportunity to get revenge on him, and she leads an uprising against him. And then, as well as that, there's also a plot to assassinate the king, which has just been unearthed by the council. And because of that, there are many casualties, and everything just descends.
Wow.
Into
There's a lot going on. A lot going on.
Yeah.
Is it a mythical country? What is the name of the country?
It's just called the Great Kingdom, but I've done that on purpose. There's a reason why it doesn't have a specific name.
What is the reason?
It's that ventures into spoiler territory.
Oh, okay. So people have to buy it and read it. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you self-published, didn't you? You went the self-publishing.
I did, yeah.
So how do you actually go about that? Because there are plenty of people who write novels and then it's so difficult to get an agent. It's difficult to get a publisher. A lot of people are self-publishing these days. So tell us how you went about it.
It's actually a lot easier than most people think that it is. All you really have to do is pick a platform and then just get all the materials ready that they need. You need to decide on things yourself, like the price. You'll probably need to hire someone to design the cover for you unless you're good at art yourself, things like that. But then, yeah, it's just a matter of uploading it and then doing your own marketing to get the sales. Marketing is really where what it all revolves around.
Yeah.
Which is very difficult for some creative people because they live inside their heads, and to go out into the big wide world, especially somebody like a writer or an artist, and to market themselves and sit themselves on a podium and say, hey, look at me, look what I've done. It's quite difficult. Are you finding that difficult, marketing yourself?
I haven't had any prior experience with it, so yeah, that does make it a bit difficult, but I'm doing my best. Yeah. I'm still focusing on the social media side right now, but then I also have amazing opportunities like this, which are definitely helping me as well.
Well, that's where I actually found you. I was trawling through Facebook, and you and your book suddenly popped up, and I thought, wow, how remarkable that somebody has just published a huge, big fantasy book at the age of 16. That is amazing. And as you say, you certainly got yourself out on social media, because I certainly saw you. So well done, you.
And is this is I guess what you want to do? I mean, you're only 16, but have you always felt that you wanted to be an author and that that's what you want to do? You want to create these novels for everyone to share? Is that your calling, would you say?
Yeah, I think I'd rather just do it as more of a side career rather than my main career. But yeah, I definitely want to carry on writing books. Writing's always been a passion of mine. So
well, you've just you have a remarkable academic career. You've just just had how many GCSEs that you've gained?
I gained 11 GCSEs and I got a grade 9 in all of them.
Wow. So what are you hoping to do? Go to university and study something else?
Yeah, so now I'm doing my A-levels. So I've chosen English, maths, and computer science. So for the next 2 years, I'm going to be studying those. And then obviously the next step is university, and I plan on probably going into law.
Wow, interesting. I bet you could pick up some stories if you go into the legal career. You could craft some pretty good, fantasy fiction from that, I would think.
Well, crime novels and true crime fiction is very popular. Do you see yourself going into different genres or staying with the fantasy type of stories?
Yeah, I've actually already made some drafts for stories that aren't fantasy. So I do definitely plan on straying from the fantasy genre a little bit. But I will always, I mean, the novel series will always be close to my heart because it's my first series. So I'll always love fantasy.
Yeah.
So you've already planned out the story, right? You've planned out the next 2 books. You're already writing them?
Yeah, I've already started work on the second one. I think I've done about 90-ish pages.
Oh. And how, I mean, you're very young. How long does it take you to create these books? How long did it take you to create your first book? And how much time do you set aside? Because we had an author on a little while ago, and she gave us a lovely top tip about being disciplined, you know, having to set yourself a certain time of the day that you just sit and write and get it done. Do you have a process that you use?
Yeah, so my process is write your first draft for the first chapter that you're doing, then go to your second one. But then after you do that, go back and proofread what you've already done, and then just repeat that process with each new chapter that you write. It is quite lengthy, but I think it's the best way of preventing plot holes, because especially with a story like mine, which is so convoluted, and there are so many storylines that intertwine at random points, and everything that happens can impact tons of characters in some way. I think that's the best way to go about it, rather than leaving all your proofreading until the end, because it's so, you've written about 500 pages. It's a lot easier to miss things.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah, that's what a lot of authors say. You write, but before you sit down in the morning, you go over what you did the day before, edit, as you say, proofread, edit, check out if there are any plot holes. That certainly seems to be a proven way of doing things.
And who else proofreads your work? Do you give it to your mum or friends, or who are your trusted little circle that sense check for you?
Yeah, so it's usually just my parents. I did give my friends I think about 30, 40 page sample as well, but I didn't want to give them the whole thing.
Yeah.
No, they need to buy the book.
Yeah.
So how do people buy the book? Where is it selling?
It's selling exclusively on Amazon. If you searched Novel Betrayed Dylan Brennan, it would come up as the first result.
Yeah, and we'll have those details going across the screen as well, so you can plug that in and go and check it out. I mean, I think it's wonderful, to be honest, because, you know, writing a book is hard enough. I don't think I could do it, but writing a book that, as you say, is so convoluted. I mean, did you ever have a moment where you did, I'm not going to swear, mess it up? Mess it up, there's children present, where you messed it up and you had to go back and redo the thing, because when you've got so many things, as you've just said, coming together, that must be incredibly easy to mess it up at some point and suddenly go along and think, oh my goodness, no, I can't do that. Have you ever had a moment like that?
So the first thing that comes to mind when you say that is with the baby Griffin character that I mentioned earlier. He sort of serves as a companion for this 9-year-old boy in my story called Dayron, who is also deaf, and he has sort of a spiritual link with the Griffin. But I completely forgot about the Griffin about 4 or 5 chapters in. So I had to go back and rework the chapters to make sure that the Griffin still has moments.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't completely disappear all of a sudden.
Yeah, it must be. How you kept thread of it all? It's just, it blows my mind. It's just like,
Well, how many characters do you have, and how many tales and plot lines interweaving do you have?
A lot of characters I can't count. But in terms of points of view, I think about 8 or 9. Yeah. Most of them are all from the Pajian family, so they're all very linked. But then some are members of other families, but it's just their story is important, so I felt like it was important to tell them.
So you have about 9 characters in your book that are telling the story from their point of view?
Yeah, most of them are from the Pajian family, but then a lot of them are also from other families, and I just felt their stories were important to tell as well, so that's why they're included.
And would you describe it as a rollicking good tale?
Yeah.
Lots of adventures, lots of fighting.
Yeah, there's also one particular character called Damon, who is also a point of view character, and his whole story is war oriented. It involves him and a gang of rangers, people he's never met, so he's meeting them for the first time, which of course leads to a fun team dynamic they get to write. And it's about them going off in adventures into this desert-like area and fighting off foreign threats.
Who was your I mean, obviously we've got from the fantasy point of view, your inspiration, things like, you know, Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, but to write a book that contains so many different viewpoints and obviously has a look at human nature, you know, you being only 16, where have you drawn those kind of characters from? Because there's an awful lot there with different, and you're talking about team dynamics and things like that, but for one so young, wasn't that difficult?
It was difficult. I've drawn the inspiration from sort of all sorts of places. For example, with Dayron, who I previously mentioned, the deaf boy, I knew I wanted to explore some form of disability in my novel because I do have some disabled friends who I'm very close to, and I feel like disability is a minority that can be sort of underexplored at times. And I went with him being deaf because I feel like it's one that's never been touched upon in fantasy. I can't think of any deaf characters in fantasy.
It's always interesting because I don't know if you've used this, but especially when there's a lot of intrigue going on, if you have a deaf character or you have people who understand sign language, you know, that's always an interesting side angle.
Yeah, his chapters were probably the most fun I had writing because none of them have any dialogue. So it's just me sort of expressing my descriptive skills and like my creative abilities.
Oh. As I say, for one so young, I think it's stunning, and some of the topics that you touch on, like domestic abuse and things like that, you know, it's such a wide scope of human experience that for you to put all of that in, I think is pretty phenomenal, I have to say.
So how many pages is it? Have you got a copy there?
Yeah, I do. It's right here. Oh, it's blood. Okay. But it is, I think, 460 pages. Yeah.
Okay, so quite a tome. And how have your friends and your family, how have they responded knowing that you now a published author?
Yeah, they think it's amazing. The support's been incredible. Within the first, I think, 24, 48 hours of my book's release, even with my teachers, I think about 20 maybe teachers purchased my book from my school.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's been incredible.
And what have they fed back to you? If they've read it, they've bought it, what have they said to you?
Yeah, a lot of people like the characters, so I think that's my selling point mostly. But yeah, the plot is also something that I've heard a lot of praise for.
Well, so what are your top 3 tips for people of your age if they decide, oh, I want to be an author, I want to write a book? What are your top 3 tips for young authors?
Okay, tip 1, you don't necessarily need to be in the mood for writing when you start because you will definitely get into it while you're writing, I think. Because I feel like there were definitely a lot of times where I felt like I wasn't really in the mood to or in the mindset to write a chapter, but then 5 seconds into writing it, I was hooked. For my second tip, I guess don't be afraid of self-publishing, because I feel like it's seen as sort of an easy way to get your book published. But in reality, you don't get rejected from publishers because your book is bad. You get rejected because you just don't suit the direction that the story doesn't suit the direction that they're taking, which is what you will hear every single time. So yeah, don't be afraid of self-publishing because you can definitely secure a lot of sales with it if you market it correctly. And then,
sorry to interrupt you, but did you come up against that? Did you try the traditional publishing route?
I did, but I never heard any criticisms of the book. They usually just said that they didn't think it was suitable for what they were doing at the moment. So it is mostly just a question of can you get lucky and fit the path that they want to take.
Okay. And your third tip?
I think my third tip would be, I think I'd just reestablish the importance of proofreading constantly. Every single time you write something, you proofread again.
Again.
Over and over and over.
Yeah.
I mean, was there any point where you felt, oh no, this is just too much work?
Yeah, definitely. But I did persevere eventually.
Good job that you did. Well, I think, and I'm going to talk now to any publishers that might be watching this little live stream, and say take a look, because we've all heard the story of J.K. Rowling, who was rejected, and it was some little publisher that picked up Harry Potter and saw the vision, and look how that turned out. And I think that sometimes publishers can be just a little bit too snotty about themselves, and a little bit too highbrow and extremely limited in vision. And I have this same problem with the film industry, that the film industry currently is tending to remake films over and over again with a new, the only thing that they're going to do new is that, oh, we're going to put more diverse characters in it, and then we're going to create a new epic, and it's going to be great because it's diverse. It's the same old. We know that Snow White sells, whether it's got a white actress or a Latino actress or whatever you're going to put in it, yes, it's going to sell. However, just it's lazy, and it gets on my nerves. So if there's any publishers out there, I think you need to take a look, because this story is so rich in characters. And look at the possibilities. Look at Game of Thrones. Look at Lord of the Rings. These are huge franchises. For a publisher to say, oh, well, we're not really going down the fantasy route, it's a bit like comedy, don't be so silly. You could be missing the next huge, big, multi-billion-dollar franchise that hit you between the eyes, and you're going to miss it because you're going to say, oh, don't do fantasy. Rubbish. Look at it. See the possibilities.
Fantasy is huge these days, and they must surely, publishers and filmmakers, they must be looking for other stories.
Star Wars, Star Trek, you bloody name it. Look, all of these things, they're huge. Star Wars is not a small property. Lord of the Rings is not a small property. All of these, epic sort of fantasy adventures. I mean, if you're going to Harry Potter, on a sort of more youthful scale, but even so, the fantasy action adventures sell. And if you've got rich characters, and room for diversity, like you have put in your deaf character, but if you've got a lot of room for diversity, it's going to sell even bigger. So I would implore anybody out there who is either a publisher or in film rights and distribution. I know we've got a couple of people in our network who are distributors. Take a look at this book and check it out, and just let your imagination run a little bit wild. Do you
dream of that, Dylan? Do you dream, oh, one day it could be a movie franchise?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
I think it could.
On the topic of diversity, I do definitely agree with your point that it is usually just used as a means of getting money. So I do have Black characters in my story. I do have gay characters in my story. So I'm just trying to make sure that I'm doing diversity right.
Yeah, and that hallelujah, amen to that, because I really, again, it's soapbox time, but it really annoys me when big companies just tick the diversity box, and you can see that's all they're doing, and they're getting it wrong. And it's
but with fantasy, you can
have fantastic stories, or fantasy stories that you can use these actors in. There are a lot of diverse actors out there who can bring their skills to the place of fantasy, or even tell their own stories. Such that in Black history, my goodness, there are so many brilliant stories that need to be told that aren't being told, and I don't know why.
But in fantasy, you can have anybody. I mean, you can have green people with blue spots, and mythical characters, mythical humans.
Avatar. How many billions did that take? Millions did that take at the box office?
Exactly. Yeah, blue people.
Fantasy people is a big genre, and it's got the capacity to sell and make huge amounts of money, not just in the box office, but streaming and whatever. So anybody who says fantasy is not our thing is just so
Well, it's
Oh,
not
the
it's not a
sale.
lot of people's thing, but it does sell and it's very, very popular. How are your sales going, Dylan?
Really good actually. I've made about, I think, £200 so far in profit. Yeah.
So it's only
That
just gone on
translates-
sale, right?
Yeah, it's been on sale for about a month now, I think, and yeah, they've sold about 100 copies.
Well done, well done.
Well,
So what,
hopefully
it's
after this
selling
we'll
for
sell
about, sorry, Melanie, it's selling for about what, 10, 12 pounds?
Yeah, 12.
12, yeah. So again, we've got the details going across the screen. So as I was just saying, hopefully after this interview, you'll sell a lot more, and we'll certainly put your name out there, because I think it's got a lot of potential. And I think that's what's wrong with the world today, both in terms of publishing and film. People don't really have the potential to see potential. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Oh, I think many people can see the potential of Dylan. I mean, he popped up on my social media news feed and I saw it immediately. I thought, wow, how remarkable. I think there will be many people out there who will see the potential of Dylan. That's for sure.
Hope so. I hope so. And I want to see this on the screen.
Thank you.
I want to see it. I want to see it. God damn you, who's ever listening to me.
Right.
I
I think we need to calm you down. Why don't you get your cards out?
Oh yeah.
This is a game we play with all all the people, our guests on the couch, Dylan. It just sort of makes them think in a different way about life and the meaning of. And Melanie just loves this part because the cards are very soft and whatever.
They're very soft. They're very soft.
Yeah.
They're very.
So she's going to
Kinda
get her
calm me
cards
down.
out and
having a bit of a passionate moment, but yeah.
no, yeah.
Well, I want to see something good on my telly. There's so much rubbish out there. God, sell it to Netflix. Netflix could do with some good bloody programs at the moment. Excuse my French. Right. Okay. I'm feeling calmer now.
Good. Calm down.
Calm down. Right. Okay. So yeah, Dylan, this is a values jam. So this just gives your audience a little bit more, will give them a little bit more of an insight into you and what's important to you. So on these cards are written a value. A value is just what is important to you. So I've got lots of different ones that it could be. So we're going to shuffle them up. I'll get you to pick a card. We'll read out what's on that card, and then we'll just have a little discussion about how you feel about that particular thing.
Okay.
Okay, so nothing to sweat. And again, it's just that this last 5 minutes of the show, so just the first answer that comes into your head. You don't have to think about it too.
There's no right or wrong answer, just whatever comes into your head.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, I've never done this before, so this is interesting.
So just say stop when you want me to pick a card.
Stop.
Right, okay, what have we got? We have got. Ooh, okay. We have got, oops, reliability. Okay. And because we are creative people here, we're going to ask you what you think about reliability in a creative way. So what does reliability mean to you, Dylan? What does it look, feel, and sound like?
Yeah, reliability is great importance to me. I think I'd associate it with perhaps like I guess a gold color, maybe, because gold is usually like, if you say someone has, for example, like a golden heart, that would usually mean that they are quite reliable, and it does have that sort of regal aspect to it, and it does seem quite like praisable. And I think reliability is definitely something that should be praised. And for taste, maybe something like a Butterfinger. I don't know.
Nice.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, all the good stuff. The nice sort of golden, creamy, loveliness, reliability. Yeah, I like that. What does it feel like to you?
I think weirdly like a curtain, because when because curtains usually have that quite soft feeling to them, and when you like unveil them, it shows it sort of links the exterior and the interior, and I think that is something that links to reliability quite a lot.
Yeah, I like that.
Is that something you'd like to wrap yourself up in?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking of a nice fleecy blanket. That's what it feels like to me.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
same
Cozy.
feeling. Yeah.
Yeah, that sort of safe, comfy, cozy feeling. Oh, well, we're out of time. Can't believe it. We've done nearly our hour already. So on that note, on that golden, buttery, snuggly reliability note, we're going to say goodbye to you. Dylan, thank you so much for being our guest on the couch today.
Thank you for having me.
Well, yeah, thanks for joining us. It's been an absolute pleasure meeting you.
It really has. And we wish you every success, both
Thank you.
your book, your future books, and your future career as a lawyer as well.
And a lawyer.
Thank you.
Yeah, exactly. Until next time, we'll see you. Bye for now.